In the waters of the Caribbean, a silent tension grows. Beneath the waves and across the skies, a confrontation is brewing that could reshape the balance of power in the Western Hemisphere. The United States Navy, long accustomed to dominance in these waters, now faces a new and unsettling challenge. Venezuela, armed with Russian-made Kh-31 supersonic anti-ship missiles, has introduced a weapon that threatens to pierce the shield of American naval supremacy. This is not merely a story of technology, but of geopolitics, alliances, and the shifting tides of global influence. It is a story of how a missile designed in Russia, deployed in Venezuela, could force the U.S. Navy into a new era of vigilance and confrontation. The Kh-31 missile, known in NATO circles as the AS-17 Krypton, is no ordinary weapon. It is a supersonic air-to-surface missile capable of reaching speeds exceeding Mach 3. Designed to destroy warships and radar installations, it represents a leap in capability for any nation that possesses it. For Venezuela, a country grappling with economic turmoil yet determined to assert its sovereignty, the acquisition of such a weapon is both a symbol and a threat. For the United States, it is a reminder that even in its own backyard, adversaries can challenge its dominance. The Caribbean, once seen as a secure zone of American influence, now becomes a contested arena where the margin for error shrinks with every passing day. To understand the gravity of this development, one must first appreciate the history of U.S.-Venezuela relations. Once bound by oil trade and regional cooperation, the two nations have drifted into hostility over the past 2 decades. Venezuela's embrace of Russia and China, coupled with its rejection of American influence, has transformed it into a forward outpost of anti-U.S. sentiment in Latin America. The arrival of Russian arms, from fighter jets to missile systems, has been part of a deliberate strategy to fortify Venezuela against EXT.
In the Caribbean, the waters shimmer under the tropical sun, but beneath the surface lies a growing tension that could ignite into confrontation. The United States Navy, long accustomed to dominance in this hemisphere, now faces a new and unsettling reality. Venezuela, armed with Russian-made Kh-31 supersonic anti-ship missiles, has introduced a weapon that threatens to pierce the shield of American naval supremacy. This is not simply a matter of military hardware. It is a story of geopolitics, alliances, and the shifting balance of power in the Western Hemisphere. It is the story of how a missile designed in Russia, deployed in Venezuela, could force the U.S. Navy into a new era of vigilance and confrontation. The Kh-31 missile, known to NATO as the AS-17 Krypton, is no ordinary weapon. It is a supersonic air-to-surface missile capable of reaching speeds exceeding Mach 3. Designed to destroy warships and radar installations, it represents a leap in capability for any nation that possesses it. For Venezuela, a country grappling with economic turmoil yet determined to assert its sovereignty, the acquisition of such a weapon is both a symbol and a threat. For the United States, it is a reminder that even in its own backyard, adversaries can challenge its dominance. The Caribbean, once seen as a secure zone of American influence, now becomes a contested arena where the margin for error shrinks with every passing day. To understand the gravity of this development, one must first appreciate the history of U.S.-Venezuela relations. Once bound by oil trade and regional cooperation, the two nations have drifted into hostility over the past 2 decades. Venezuela's embrace of Russia and China, coupled with its rejection of American influence, has transformed it into a forward outpost of anti-U.S. sentiment in Latin America. The arrival of Russian arms, from fighter jets to missile systems, has been part of a deliberate strategy to fortify Venezuela against external pressure. The Kh-31, however, is different. It is not a defensive weapon. It is an offensive tool designed to strike at the heart of naval power. With its range, speed, and precision, it can threaten U.S. ships operating in the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, and even the approaches to the Atlantic. Imagine the scenario. A U.S. Navy destroyer patrols near Venezuelan waters, enforcing sanctions or conducting freedom of navigation operations. Overhead, a Venezuelan Su-30 fighter jet takes off, armed with Kh-31 missiles under its wings. Within minutes, the jet locks onto the destroyer, and a missile streaks across the sky at supersonic speed. The ship's radar detects the incoming threat, but the reaction window is narrow. Countermeasures are deployed, electronic warfare systems scramble to jam the missile's guidance, and defensive missiles are launched to intercept. Yet the Kh-31 is designed to evade such defenses, flying low over the sea, maneuvering at high speed, and striking with devastating force. Even if intercepted, the mere presence of such a weapon alters the calculus of naval operations. The U.S. Navy must now prepare for a threat that cannot be ignored, a threat that forces it to rethink its posture in the region. The implications extend beyond the battlefield. For Russia, supplying Venezuela with Kh-31 missiles is a strategic move. It projects power into the Western Hemisphere, challenges U.S. influence, and strengthens an ally that serves as a thorn in Washington's side. For Venezuela, it is a demonstration of defiance, a message to the world that despite economic hardship, it can still wield advanced military technology. For the United States, it is a dilemma. To ignore the threat is to risk vulnerability. To confront it is to escalate tensions in a region already fraught with instability. The Kh-31 thus becomes more than a missile. It becomes a symbol of geopolitical rivalry, a catalyst for confrontation, and a reminder that the balance of power is never static. The U.S. Navy's response is multifaceted. Training exercises in the Caribbean now emphasize missile defense. Ships are equipped with advanced radar systems, electronic warfare suites, and interceptor missiles designed to counter supersonic threats. Pilots are trained to recognize and respond to Kh-31 launches. Intelligence networks monitor Venezuelan air bases, tracking the movement of Su-30 fighters and their payloads. Yet the challenge remains daunting. Supersonic missiles compress time, reducing the window for decision-making. In naval warfare, seconds can determine survival. The Kh-31 forces the U.S. Navy to operate under constant alert, knowing that a single launch could transform routine patrols into life-or-death struggles. Beyond the tactical level, the strategic consequences ripple outward. Latin America, long considered a sphere of U.S. influence, now witnesses the encroachment of Russian military technology. Other nations observe Venezuela's defiance and wonder whether they too might acquire advanced weapons to deter American pressure. The credibility of U.S. deterrence is tested. If the Navy cannot guarantee security in its own hemisphere, what message does that send to allies in Europe, Asia, or the Middle East? The Kh-31 thus becomes part of a larger narrative, one in which great powers contest influence across the globe, using technology, alliances, and proxies to challenge one another. The missile itself deserves closer examination. The Kh-31 is powered by a ramjet engine, allowing it to sustain supersonic speeds throughout its flight. It can be launched from aircraft at altitudes ranging from low to high, giving flexibility in deployment. Its guidance system combines inertial navigation with active radar homing, enabling it to track and strike moving targets with precision. Its warhead, weighing over 90 kilograms, is capable of crippling or sinking medium-sized warships. In tests, the missile has demonstrated the ability to penetrate advanced air defense systems, making it a formidable adversary. For the U.S. Navy, accustomed to facing slower, less sophisticated threats, the Kh-31 represents a new level of danger. Consider the psychological impact. Sailors aboard U.S. ships must now operate with the knowledge that at any moment, a supersonic missile could be launched against them. The stress of constant vigilance, the pressure of rapid decision-making, and the fear of catastrophic loss weigh heavily on morale. Commanders must balance the need for assertive presence with the risk of provocation. Politicians must weigh the costs of escalation against the dangers of inaction. The Kh-31 thus exerts influence not only on the battlefield but on the minds of those who must confront it. It is a weapon that shapes behavior, alters strategy, and redefines the boundaries of confrontation. The broader geopolitical context cannot be ignored. Russia's support for Venezuela is part of a global strategy to challenge U.S. dominance. By supplying advanced weapons to allies in Latin America, Africa, and Asia, Russia extends its reach and complicates American calculations. The Kh-31 in Venezuela is akin to Russian missiles in Syria or Chinese weapons in the South China Sea. It is part of a pattern in which great powers arm their partners to create regional flashpoints. For the United States, this means confronting not only the immediate threat but the larger trend of adversaries using proxies to undermine its influence. The Caribbean, once seen as secure, now becomes a contested zone in a global chessboard. The potential scenarios are sobering. A miscalculation at sea could lead to the launch of a Kh-31 against a U.S. ship. Even if intercepted, the incident could spark escalation, drawing in regional allies and global powers. Economic sanctions could intensify, diplomatic relations could collapse, and military deployments could expand. The risk of confrontation grows with each exercise, each patrol, each missile test. The Kh-31 thus becomes a trigger, a spark that could ignite a larger conflict. In the age of supersonic weapons, the margin for error is razor-thin, and the consequences of misjudgment are catastrophic. Yet amid the tension, there is also resilience. The U.S. Navy has faced challenges before, from German U-boats in World War II to Soviet missiles during the Cold War. Each time, it has adapted, innovated, and prevailed. The Kh-31 is formidable, but it is not invincible. Countermeasures, tactics, and technologies evolve. The Navy invests in directed energy weapons, advanced interceptors, and electronic warfare systems designed to neutralize supersonic threats. Training emphasizes rapid response, coordination, and resilience. The challenge is real, but so too is the determination to meet it. The confrontation in the Caribbean is not predetermined. It is shaped by choices, strategies, and the will to prevail. In the end, the story of Venezuela's Kh-31 missiles is a story of power, defiance, and confrontation. It is a reminder that weapons are not merely tools of war but instruments of politics. They shape alliances, influence strategies, and alter the course of history. The U.S. Navy, vigilant and prepared, must now navigate a new reality in which supersonic missiles threaten its dominance in the Caribbean. Venezuela, armed and defiant, asserts its sovereignty with Russian support. Russia, strategic and calculating, extends its influence into America's backyard. The Kh-31, sleek and deadly, becomes the symbol of this confrontation. In the skies above the Caribbean and the waters below, the stage is set for a drama that could define the future of naval warfare and the balance of power in the Western Hemisphere.